Well, hi everyone, this is Bonnie in Gerton's birding department talking to you once again. We got a beautiful day. We decided to do this outside, first day of June. And today I'm going to do a couple different updates for you. Some people have been coming in every weekend that I've been working and asking about the avian flu. What's going on? Can we put our feeders out? Can we put our bird baths out? So this is the latest that I can give you. So far, the Wildlife Rehab Center is saying they still have not had songbirds being brought in, so we're good to go on that. And the Raptor Center is still the only organization that is highly recommending that you don't put your bird baths and you don't put your bird feeders up. However, they said the first week of June, because fewer and fewer raptors are coming in now, that it will be safe to do so. How this is all going to end is warmer weather and sun. As everybody knows, in February, that's when all this started to happen. We've had a very cold, rainy spring. Now that we're getting warmer weather and the temps are moving up, hopefully, that this thing is going to be eradicated. My high recommendation is with your bird feeders, clean them out more often than you ever did. Some people say, well, I never clean them out. This is where you need to be really vigilant. And my suggestion, again, I said this in our last video that we did, is to use hot water, really hot water. You can even boil the water, and distilled vinegar if you don't feel comfortable using bleach. Let it sit in your bird feeder to get all the little bits and pieces off of it. Let it sit for a good hour and then rinse it thoroughly. Distilled vinegar is not going to kill a bird. That's a good thing. Unlike if you don't rinse the bleach out, that can kill a bird. So if you've got bird baths, dump the water daily, put fresh water in. Most people know that nature, birds, that's their toilet, is nature. So they're going to go to the bathroom in their bird baths. They're going to go to the bathroom underneath bird feeders. If you do have a lot of seed and a lot of mold, a lot of feces under there, please rake that up. Do it at least once or twice a week. Put it in the garbage, but this is how birds get really sick. This is how the avian flu started. It's transferred through feces. It's a respiratory virus. We seem to be on the downside of this now, so that's really good to hear. If anybody has any questions about that, again, feel free to send your comments or at least ask a question about it, but I think we're good. One of the other questions that we're going to be talking about today is now nesting season. And AJ is going to ask a question that we've been getting from a lot of different customers that have been coming in from the store. So AJ, the first question.
Yep. So our first question that comes from a customer is, are birds done nesting, and how many broods do hummingbirds and orioles have during the season?
Okay, so we only get the ruby-throated hummingbird here in Minnesota. And because of that, people say, well, there's just the male and the female come, they just build one nest. They build a nest. The ruby throats are the only ones that are in Minnesota. There are 4 or 5 different types in the Southwest. Hummingbirds only are in North and South America. They do up to 2 broods a season. Some go up to 3. Orioles, 1. Robins can do up to 3. And wrens can do up to 3 as well, but it's usually 1 to 2 broods a year. It depends on, again, what the weather is. Are migrants coming back, if they've got a good, safe place for nesting? So birds do more than 1 broods a year or a season, except for the orioles. They do just 1.
Perfect. And are those nests, do they have a favorite spot to nest? Do you have any recommendations for keeping them safe?
Well, so hummingbirds, we should talk about this because this is a lot of people and customers have been coming in and asking, do we sell hummingbird houses? No, there's no such thing. Even if you look on the website, you will see some of the websites are showing what is a roosting house. Now this is for chickadees or wrens. This is really a good idea to have in the winter for birds to all just curl up in if you've got a blizzard or there's a lot of snow and it's very cold. This is a roosting house. Hummingbirds, cardinals, they don't use houses. So what do hummingbirds do? They find a deciduous tree usually. They find a fork or a branch that's got a fork-like area and they build nests. And their nests are built of spider silk, lichen, and moss. And lichen, if I'm saying that correctly, apparently it's like a fungus, a fungi, or an algae that they use to really secure the nest, like a robin would use mud, and barn swallows use mud as well. But don't get into the idea that that you're going to get a hummingbird house and they're going to use it. They are not cavity dwellers. They live in trees and they build their own nests, so you're just wasting your money. And Gertens doesn't sell them because there is no such thing. I mean, you can buy whatever you want online, but hummingbirds will not use it.
Speaking of that, you talked about some material that birds use to nest. People were asking, is it safe to put dryer lint, dryer sheets, or pet fur out for the birds to use?
This is a really good question, and this is the stuff that makes my head explode at times because some people, they're very proud of themselves and they say, oh, I comb my dog and my cat and I put all their fur outside for the birds to make their nest in. If you use any flea sprays or if you use any powders on them, that can kill a bird. So I'm okay with that if you're not treating your pet with any kind of flea powder or any chemical. As far as dryer sheets and dryer lint, absolutely not. You have heard horror stories. There's horror stories of people putting dryer sheets out, it gets wet, and they end up getting their feet caught in the nest. The fledglings do. Dryer lint is the same thing. It becomes like a sponge on their feet. So please don't use dryer lint. Don't use dryer sheets that's got perfumes in it. And as far as pet fur, you can use it if you're not treating them with any kind of flea powder or chemical spray.
Another topic, so if people are trying to attract hummingbirds, how often should they be changing out the nectar that they're putting in the feeders?
Okay, so this is kind of tricky because most people think, well, if you get hummingbirds, it's very low maintenance. You just make your own nectar, and don't put any red in it, and that's the end of it. But as our weather starts to get warmer in the 90s and it's humid, and if it's in the sun, it doesn't make any difference if your hummingbird feeder is in the sun or the shade, but if it is in the sun, you're going to have to change that nectar out more often. 95 degrees, humidity, sun every 3 days, because otherwise you'll get bacteria and mold in the ports and in the water. If you see your hummingbird feeder's got cloudy nectar, that's a big problem. You want to take it in right away. But don't just think you're going to fill the hummingbird feeder. You've got to clean it each and every time. Even if it's weather like we're having right now, and it's 70 degrees and it's cool and it's very low humidity, 5 days, a week maximum that you should have your hummingbird feeder out. And again, clean it thoroughly. I recommend that you use, again, hot water, distilled vinegar, rinse it well. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology recommends that you don't put it in the dishwasher because it can leave a soapy residue, and we don't want that. We don't want to sicken these little miracles. So again, distilled vinegar is not going to get them sick. It's if there's a little residue in there. And it cleans the plastic, it cleans the glass beautifully.
And then would you give the same advice for the grape jelly that you would give to Orioles?
Yes. Now, a lot of people are coming into the store and they're using the half oranges, they're using nectar, they're using the nectar feeders for Orioles because they feel bad for an Oriole because it'll land on a hummingbird feeder and it can't get its beak into that little tiny port of a hummingbird feeder. So people run out and they get nectar feeders for Orioles. But I've had quite a few of them and we do sell them. And if it works for you, I think that's great, but the ports are much larger on an Oriole nectar feeder. And nothing is worse than opening that up when you're changing the nectar and you're going to have yellow jackets, not bees, but yellow jacket wasps. And that's going to be yellow jacket season right around early July, mid-July, and then for the rest of the summer, I take my feeders in. Now, not my hummingbird feeder so much, but my jelly feeder, because yellow jackets are feeding their babies then. In the summer, they are going crazy over picnic food, sweets, meat, sodas. They'll even fly into a beer can. They're just ravenous for that kind of food. So I take it in and people go, well, yeah, but then what about the Orioles? Well, there are so many insects now available for Orioles. There's tons of them around. That's what they're feeding their babies. But people wonder, should I feed them, can I give them orange marmalade? That's really too rich for them. What you want to do is you want to mimic the fruit that is natural to them in the Dominican Republic and Mexico, which is where they migrate in the south during the winter. So it should be grape jelly. The problem with grape jelly in the summer when it gets very, very humid and hot, either change it out right away, clean it out because it's going to be one sticky mess, or add some water to it so it gets a little more like grape juice because they will like that too. But just one plop, a tablespoon in each cup or in the cups that you've got, And then in 3 or 4 days, if you see it really sticky, if that gets on an Oriole's wings or on their beaks and in their face, they're in trouble. So you have to, if you're going to feed these beautiful, beautiful birds, make sure that you take great care of their feeders. It's really important to clean them and keep everything nice and fresh.
For sure. And then for the hummingbirds, you talked about making your own nectar. Do you have any recommendations for that?
I do. So you can Google this, but some people come in and they go, oh, it's a simple syrup recipe. That's what I use for my margaritas. And I'm like, how simple is that? So it's just a sugar water recipe. I make a bigger batch, so you boil. Cornell Lab of Ornithology is saying boil your water to get rid of impurities. Boil 4 cups of water. Take it off the heat. Then put in 1 cup of granulated white sugar, dissolve it, and then when it cools off, you can put it in a pitcher or a jar in the fridge. It lasts 2 to 3 weeks. So you have a endless supply all season long of hummingbird nectar. And please, no red. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology, to me, which is the Bible of birding, they have said that they've done research and it can cause blindness in juvenile hummingbirds if you use any kind of red coloring. So why would we do that? If there's any red on the port of the hummingbird feeder, red, orange, purple, and blue are their favorite colors. If you don't have a colorful hummingbird feeder in those color palettes, then get a red ribbon or a red string. Ask Gertens, we've got lots of red strings and ribbons here. Tie it on the hook. Hummingbird sees it flapping in the wind, they'll come right in. So that's my helpful hint. If you have a hummingbird feeder that you love, but it's yellow or it's pink, just get a red ribbon or a red string, and that'll really help.
Perfect. One more topic. So as we're sitting back here, we hear some birds around us. Is there any app that you would recommend that could help identify those songs that we're hearing?
There is a great app, and even customers are telling me about it themselves. I've had it for a long time. Again, it's by, tractor coming through. We're outside, it's Gertens, it's a nursery. There's a great app by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and it's called Merlin. So download that app, and when you've downloaded it, it will have songbird ID. So you can record that song of that bird, and then it will show pictures. It will identify, it will bring up a whole string of different bird pictures and the bird songs. So it's great. It's really fun.
Awesome. Very cool.
And the other thing, just one last thing before we go, is goldfinches are now nesting. Well, they're going to start nesting probably in mid-June. This is what they love. If you don't have a holder for it, my suggestion is use a potato or a citrus bag that's got mesh so they can pull it out, and then a suet feeder. That would also work. Just stuff some of this in there, and you'll watch goldfinches look like little Santa Clauses. They'll just pull all the nesting material right out of the cage. And this is just any nesting material, but remember, we don't want dryer lint, we don't want any kind of perfume, and this is all natural by Audubon. So again, come and see me at Gertens. I'm here only on the weekends, but if you have any comments, I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Just call in, write in, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.